Hey everybody, Tag Life Done Free. Hey, I've had some things on my brain lately, just thinking about, the way the world is going and, the totalitarian state that just seems to continue to grow and grow and grow. And so I thought I'd just give you guys a video and let's talk a little bit about that and, kind of how we get here and, how they brainwash us and how we can stay aware and the things we can do about it. So anyway, let's talk about totalitarianism. Come on, let's check it out. So, have you guys ever heard of a guy named Dr. Joost Meerlo? This guy was a Dutch-American psychiatrist, and he had escaped from a Nazi Germany prison camp in occupied Holland. Anyway, he wrote this book called The Rape of the Mind, where he explores how totalitarian societies brainwash their citizens. And, although this book was written way back in 1956, the lessons learned relate as much today as George Orwell's 1984. But anyway, so Juice says, and I quote, "He who dictates and formulates the words and phrases we use, he who masters the press and the radio, is the master of the mind. Repeat mechanically your assumptions and suggestions. Diminish the opportunity for communicating dissent and opposition. This is the formula for political conditioning of the masses." See, Meerlo knew that freedom of discussion and intellectual freedom and the exchange of ideas hinder the conditioning of the masses. Feelings of terror, hopelessness, fear must be installed for most people today. Fear and hopelessness are frequent friends. Because of the woke culture, because of the cancel culture, honest and open intellectual exchange has become very difficult. The state and big tech need to remove the alternative views is done in order to combat the open mind. See, an open mind is open for dissension. This is why topics that seem insignificant to most are suppressed. For the religion of totalitarianism to prosper, the curious and the imaginative mind must be suppressed. See, beginning in our early age, our schools and churches teach us that we must only memorize the information given to us because, in the end, Big Brother is the ultimate authority. If we question it, we are racist, we are bigots, and we are unpatriotic. We are rewarded when the bell rings. But this too is an act of constant mental manipulation. Why were you excited when the bell rang? Was it because the calculated regiment was over? Was it because you could return home just to memorize some more? As you progressed through your school, they moved recess from the normal school day to after school. Why? Well, so you could spend more time away from your parents. You spent your time instead competing with your peers in state-approved compositions. Have you ever heard of a guy named H.L. Mencken? See, he said the aim of the public education is not to spread enlightenment at all. It is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed a standard in citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. Our school systems weaken our mental and spiritual strength. The agenda is to tame and condition the youth instead of educate them. Though these systems, men and women, are raised to accept the authoritarian way of life, they have convinced the masses instead to focus their attention on what others think, losing the mind of their own. Through background noise, verbal cues, and non-stop mainstream narrative, the masses are programmed to simply think as the loudest noise thinks. They celebrate their status as up to speed or in the know. Big Brother need not bother himself with the dissenters because the little brother will do it for him. Remember, this is quickly becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Self-thinking man is quickly disappearing, and as the system removes creativity and self-thought, it is replaced with cliches and sterilized preset thoughts, while each person celebrates their perception of individuality. Mental automation is the goal. Free thought, free conversation interrupts the status quo. It is then shunned as being old, bigoted, and out of touch. What remains is conditioned patterns and educated muscles. See, in order to live as a free man in a free society, we must recognize and take action against the attack on our mental integrity. The propaganda that is used is so tempting. It pressures us of daily life It drives many of us to seek and escape from our responsibilities. Big Brothers offers you a solution for all the difficulties, which tempts most people to just follow along. They offer escape through drugs and pleasures that are simply irresistible to most. And all the while, they become nothing more than opinionated robots. As the war on drugs, it's gotten better, right? Which drugs, I would ask? The drugs that come across the borders or the ones that come from Big Brother? Everything today has a diagnosis, to which everything has a pill. You know, there's a strategy that they use called terror and love, and it's a technique used to convert the masses into the totalitarian religion. When is the last time you were subjected to terror via ongoing wars, continuing fear-mongering, false flags, and the ever-present threat of loss of livelihood, property, imprisonment, or death? Has this ever happened to you? See, the love part of this is that the rituals to help to honor the very people who create the fear, the State of the Union, the 4th of July, Christmas, and every other holiday, marketed to us to reassure you that Big Brother is doing all they can do to protect you and to provide you with happiness. And I said that correctly, to provide you with happiness. Remember, happiness only comes from the state. All hail the Republic. The continuous propaganda assures the sheep that the regime cares for them and is working hard to keep them safe from the dangers of the world. Ever hear the term Stockholm Syndrome? You know, where the abuser becomes the safe haven? No, never mind. Anxiety and confusion create a bond between the people and the state. Again, all hail the Republic. Most people search for things to be afraid of because this masks their own anxieties. We escape to the irrational to avoid self-thinking and self-study. Our free time is now consumed with automated activities specifically designed to strengthen our normalcy bias. We play no role in these activities other than listening and viewing whatever Big Brother decides is worth seeing. We rush from place to place only to rush home to take a sleeping pill to numb the anxiety on the next day, which will be exactly like the one before. If we do this correctly, and in line with what other people think, we move one step closer to the golden years of vacations and pleasure. Many people have fallen for this lie without ever knowing it. Totalitarianism is more than a political system. In fact, it's a religion, and this religion is spreading across the globe. The goal is not only to change the political and social societies, but is also to remodel the nature of man. Religion built on the belief of a golden future that will be ushered in with the second coming of Christ. See, totalitarianism movements borrowed this very idea, but instead of a god or a prophet that transforms the world, totalitarian governments are built on the belief that mankind can recreate the world in a new golden age and can be constructed under the direction of the all-powerful, all-controlling, by the anointed. In the totalitarian movements of the past, the golden age was envisioned to be one of racial purity, Nazi Germany, or the communist utopia of equality and efficiency, right, Russia. Today, the totalitarian golden age is one in which mankind exists in harmony with Mother Earth. See, Big Brother recognized that through global warming and other environmental events, it could bring in this new social order to control the thoughts of you and me. And next will emerge the age where man merges with machine in an effort to avoid disease and death. What a great golden age this will be. Never in history has a totalitarian utopia come to be. Instead, it manifests in only death and slavery. See, those who seek absolute power may seek it to do what they regard as good. They are demanding the right to enforce their own version of heaven on earth. They are the anointed, right? The end always justifies the means. Lockdowns, surveillance, and thought crimes are becoming the norm. In this totalitarian religion, there are the chosen people, there are the anointed, and then there are the sinners, the rejects, and the deplorables. The anointed ones believe in the possibility of a future paradise and the ability of the state to be the vehicle that creates that transformation. The sinners, the rejects, and the deplorables are the non-believers who stand in the way of public safety and the greater good. Polish philosopher Zygmunt Bauman said, I love this example he used, the totalitarians see the earth as a garden, which they are anointed to cultivate, and the sinners as the weeds that must be exterminated to bring about the full flowering of the totalitarian utopia. Totalitarianism defines us as weeds, and like other weeds, they must be segregated, contained, prevented from spreading, removed, and kept outside of society's boundaries. If all these means prove insufficient, they must be killed. Financial and social pressure has many of you watching this video thinking that you can't resist Big Brother. And I'm here to tell you that the resistance starts with being aware of the mental process that makes you conform. As we become aware, our spiritual strength grows. As we use self-study, we prepare ourselves for the exchange of ideas. As we spread freedom to all the woke little brothers, Big Brother will find that he has no power. Totalitarianism is a religion that never achieves what it's promised. It creates pain and suffering, in which many are sacrificed for the good of the state, but none are delivered into this golden new world they were promised. The more power the state steals, the more corrupt it becomes. The more corrupt, the more absurd the laws become, and the more the world descends into chaos. Politicians and others in those positions of global power are vocal about their desire to remake, rebuild, reset the world, and the masses are expected to obey and to love the new society that is being forced upon them. Remember, you will owe nothing, and you will be happy. If the obedience does not come voluntarily, we will see the force being used with alarming frequency. They want to be your shepherd. They are destined to be your shepherd. We don't know what is good for us, but that requires us to be sheep. So, what are we going to do about it? First thing is, we can stop allowing our children to be indoctrinated with these ideas. We can counter their efforts by being involved in our kids' education, ask questions and teach them to question. Better yet, homeschool, and even better than that, start a homeschooling co-op in order to help others. We can highlight the people who blindly obey the commands of the state, and we can mock and we can ridicule them, specifically the politicians and bureaucrats. We can point out the propagandas and lies. We can mock and ridicule the little brothers doing the work of his elder. We can create technology, art, memes, videos, books, merchandise, and music that informs and inspires and spreads the message of freedom. And most importantly, we can build and participate in the counter economy and the parallel economy, which consists of all voluntary exchange. And this exchange is outside the controlling eyes of the totalitarian state. This exchange strengthens your community and diminishes the power of Big Brother. It builds unity, it builds trust, it creates a feeling of safety and self-reliance. See, it picks winners and losers in your local community by rewarding businesses that stand for freedom and punishes those who do not. Never forget, the social credit score, it works both ways. We can strive to live as freely as possible. While we single-handedly cannot free the world, our own personal freedom creates ripples in society and serves as a powerful example for others who seek freedom. See, you are not really making a choice between complying and living the easy life versus resisting and inviting hardship. Compliance in totalitarianism is the most dangerous of all choices, as it is based on the hope that this time will be different. That this time power won't corrupt the politicians and the state officials. That this time the beast will not eat its children and create this man-made hell on earth, just as Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Mussolini. But, as I always say, at the end of the day,